Hello, good evening. My name is Gabriela Hernandez, and in this presentation, I will be giving a book review of The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. The book is a historical fiction. It is based on World War II era, specifically about the invasion of the Germans in France. It is a story honoring the women who stepped in to fight undercover and the obstacles they overcame during that time. An adventure on the French resistance to the Nazi occupation. As you may have read or overheard, the different horror stories that happened during that time, that the Nazis took over a large part of Europe and essentially started World War II. This story is a little bit different. It talks more about the women who had to take part during this time period and what they did to survive. So the book plot had a really strong quote that resonated with me, and that was, "In love, we find out who we want to be. In war, we find out who we are." And so essentially the story is two French sisters, Isabelle and Vianne. One is a rebel, a free spirit, stubborn, while the other is a mother and a wife, a more submissive, quiet type of woman. Both sisters have the same upbringing. Their mother dies in early childhood, and their father becomes an alcoholic to bear with the pain that he endured during World War I and losing his wife. So he essentially sends them both off to live with a stranger. The sisters survive the war differently in their own way. One is filled with anger and defiance and risks her own life to join the resistance against Nazi occupation, while the other takes a different course of action and has more caution and fear. She has a German soldier that is assigned to her house and who has to live with her, so she has to avoid conflict for the sake of her life and her children's life. Pictured here is the mastermind behind the horrible time period that was the Nazi occupation in France. So overall, the plot was great. It's a story of survival, a story of love. The characters, you will fall in love with these characters. They're relatable in certain ways. They make you cry in others. The writing style could use a little work, in my personal opinion. The pacing is great. Overall, it's a 4 out of 5. So the book genre, as I mentioned, is a historical fiction, but it also has a lot of adventure, romance, mystery. The narrator at the beginning of the story is one of the sisters, so you want to find out who survives this horrible time period of Nazi occupation. And to find out who is the survivor, you have to continue reading the book. And the questions that stood out to me while I was reading this book is, if I were in the same situation, how far would I be willing to go to protect my family or protect myself? Which of the sisters' response to the French resistance would I take on? Who do I relate to the most? Which character's fate is the most tragic? Did the book give me a better understanding of life under Nazi occupation during World War II? Yes, it did. Obviously, the question for me that stood out the most is, which sister's fate would I say is the most tragic, without giving you any spoilers. As someone who has a sister, personally, this book affected me a lot. I did cry during the time that I read this book, so I will just leave you with that bit of information for your own judgment on whether you pick up this book or not. Another interesting part that I did see is there is a movie that will be made about this book, and I've shared the interview with the author, Kristen Hanna, and she talks about some of her other projects that she's written. And overall, it was a great experience for me. This is my first book that I've read by Kristen Hanna, and I definitely recommend it.